Okay, so there's a church in Ethiopia that claims to have the actual Ark of the Covenant right now, today, and won't let anyone look at it. Indiana Jones made this thing famous as a magical box that melts Nazis. But strip away the movies, and you're left with a genuinely wild historical question. The Bible describes this object in exact measured detail, tracks it through centuries of real history, and then the text just goes quiet at exactly the moment we'd want more information. So the ark's construction is described in incredible, almost architectural detail in Exodus chapter 25, verse 10. And here's the King James Version, word for word. "And they shall make an ark of shittim wood. 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and a cubit and a half the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the height thereof." That converts to roughly 45 inches long by 27 inches wide by 27 inches high, about the size of a large coffee table. Verse 11 adds it was overlaid with pure gold, inside and out, with a gold molding around the rim. Verse 17 through 20 adds even more specificity, a solid gold cover called the mercy seat, sized to fit the ark's top opening exactly, with 2 cherubim hammered out of that same single piece of gold, facing each other with wings spread upward. This isn't vague religious poetry. This reads like a manufacturing spec sheet with materials, dimensions, and construction technique all included. According to Exodus 25 verse 16, it was built specifically to hold the stone tablets. Later New Testament text in Hebrews chapter 9 adds that it also contained Aaron's staff and a jar of manna, though that's a detail added centuries later rather than something stated directly in Exodus itself, worth noting as a real cross-testament layering of tradition. And this wasn't a decorative object sitting in a back room somewhere. Numbers chapter 10 describes the ark literally leading the Israelite camp on the march through the wilderness, carried out in front of the whole community whenever they moved. Later, Joshua chapter 6 has it carried around the walls of Jericho for 7 straight days as part of that famous siege. Whatever else is debated about this object, its described role in the text is as an active, central, physically transported piece of Israelite religious and military life, not a static museum piece. Quick gut check before we go further. Comment below. Do you think the ark still exists somewhere, was destroyed in antiquity, or was more symbolic than literal? Guess now. Here's the actual mystery, stated precisely. 2 Chronicles 35 verse 3 records King Josiah telling the Levites, quote, "Put the holy ark in the house which Solomon the son of David, king of Israel, did build." Biblical commentators, including the CSB Study Bible, explicitly identify this as the last time the ark is mentioned anywhere in the Old Testament. Josiah reigned in the mid to late 7th century BC. After this verse, the text simply never brings it up again. And Josiah's timing here is actually a meaningful clue on its own. He's giving this instruction as part of a major religious reform effort, reorganizing temple worship and centralizing it back in Jerusalem. Some historians read this specific instruction as evidence the ark had actually been moved or displaced at some earlier point, and Josiah is ordering it returned to its proper place, rather than this being a routine, unremarkable instruction about an object that had simply been sitting there the whole time. And here's a detail that genuinely surprised me doing this research. 2 Kings chapter 25, verses 13 through 17, gives us Babylon's actual itemized loot list from when they destroyed Jerusalem's temple. It lists bronze pillars, basins, shovels, snuffers, spoons, and every gold and silver vessel they carried off. The ark is not on that list, not mentioned as taken, not mentioned as destroyed, just completely absent from an otherwise very thorough inventory. That absence is actually one of the strongest, most citable pieces of textual evidence in this whole mystery. It strongly suggests the ark was already gone, moved, hidden, or destroyed sometime between Josiah's reign and the Babylonian conquest, rather than being looted along with everything else. This is a real, sourced detail, not speculation, and it's the foundation for several of the theories we're about to cover. Theory 1, and probably the most famous. Ethiopia's Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in the city of Axum claims to physically hold the ark today. This tradition traces back to a text called the Kebra Nagast, which describes Menelik, said to be the son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, bringing the ark to Ethiopia. I want to flag clearly, I have not been able to independently verify the exact composition date of the Kebra Nagast in my research for this episode, so treat that specific detail as unconfirmed until further checked. Only one specific guardian monk is allowed to view the object, and it has never been independently examined by outside researchers. And here's the genuinely frustrating part of this specific theory. Because no outside researcher, historian, or scientist has ever been allowed to examine the object directly, this claim can't be confirmed, but it also can't be definitively disproven. It exists in a permanent state of unverifiable, which is honestly rare even by the standards of this entire mystery series. Theory 2 points to the apocryphal book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 2, which describes the prophet Jeremiah hiding the ark in a cave before the Babylonian destruction. This theory has essentially zero physical evidence supporting it, mainly because the Temple Mount site in Jerusalem is heavily restricted from excavation today, for both religious and political reasons, meaning nobody can actually go check. Worth explaining why this theory stays permanently untestable. The Temple Mount today sits beneath the dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque, sites of enormous religious significance in Islam, and any excavation attempt there carries serious geopolitical and religious consequences. This isn't a case of archaeologists simply not getting around to it. It's one of the most politically sensitive few square miles on the planet, and that reality alone guarantees this theory will likely never be tested one way or the other in our lifetimes. Theory 3, and I want to be very direct here because this one gets repeated online constantly without pushback. In the 1980s, an American man named Ron Wyatt, who had no archaeological training or credentials whatsoever, claimed to have found the ark beneath the Garden Tomb site in Jerusalem. Here's the actual documented outcome. The Garden Tomb Association, which supervised his excavation directly, issued a formal statement saying he never found any such thing. Wyatt never produced a single photograph, lab result, or piece of physical evidence for this or any of his other claimed discoveries. This isn't a competing theory with weak evidence. This is a thoroughly debunked claim. I'm spending extra time on this because Wyatt's claims still circulate widely on social media and low-quality documentary content, often presented as genuine suppressed archaeology. The actual paper trail says otherwise, and it's worth being the video that says so clearly instead of just repeating the myth for views. Theory 4 is the simplest, and given that missing loot list detail we covered earlier, probably the most historically defensible. The ark was already gone, removed, hidden, or destroyed sometime between Josiah's reign and the Babylonian conquest, which is exactly why it's absent from that detailed 2 Kings inventory. This doesn't require any fringe claims, hidden monks, or undiscovered caves. It just requires taking the biblical text's own silence seriously. Quick correction, since this comes up constantly. The 1981 film Raiders of the Lost Ark took massive creative liberties, including its famous melting faces climax, which has zero basis anywhere in the biblical text. Fun movie, not a historical source, and definitely not something to cite as evidence. Step back for a second and think about why this particular mystery has this much staying power. Unlike Ophir or Tarshish, which were about locating a place, this is about locating an object, one specifically described as dangerous, sacred, and directly connected to the presence of God. That combination, a real measured artifact plus genuine religious weight plus total disappearance, is basically the perfect setup for centuries of legend building, and it explains why this one keeps generating new claims even now. So here's where this one lands, and it's genuinely more uncertain than either Ophir or Tarshish. We don't have a contested inscription or a chemistry study to point to here. What we do have is one very precise construction description, a confirmed last biblical mention in 2 Chronicles 35, a genuinely telling absence from Babylon's own loot list, one heavily guarded and completely unverifiable religious claim in Ethiopia, and one thoroughly debunked modern discovery claim that keeps getting recycled online anyway. If I had to weigh the theories honestly, the Ark being lost or hidden sometime before the Babylonian destruction is the most historically defensible position, mainly because it's directly supported by that missing loot list detail in 2 Kings. The Ethiopia claim is the most culturally significant, but remains permanently unverifiable by design. The Wyatt claim is not a real theory at all, it's a debunked one. 3 episodes in now, 3 of the Bible's biggest missing objects, and honestly, this one has the least hard evidence of all of them, but also the clearest documented debunk of a popular myth. If that combination fascinates you, share this with someone who loves an unsolved mystery. Next time, the Queen of Sheba herself, and whether her actual kingdom has ever been found.